Hey everyone, if you're an international pharmacist getting ready for the PEBC evaluating exam, then this is for you. We are going to break down some of the most important concepts in pharmaceutics. Basically, the stuff you absolutely need to know to feel ready for the test. So, let's just jump right in.
So here's how we're going to tackle this. We'll start with the big why, then get into the science behind it all. After that, we'll walk through the different dosage forms, solids, liquids, the specialized stuff, and then we'll wrap it all up by connecting it back to our role as pharmacists. All right, first things first. Let's tackle the most basic question there is. Why do dosage forms even exist? I mean, why don't we just use the pure, raw drug?
It really does seem like it would be easier, right? What's the big deal with just weighing out the active pharmaceutical ingredient, the API, for every single patient?
Okay, so look at this number, 0.05 milligrams. This is a pretty standard dose for something like ethinyl estradiol. Now, to put that in perspective, that is 6,500 times smaller than a regular aspirin tablet. Seriously, could you imagine trying to measure out that tiny little speck of powder accurately and safely every single time? No way! It would be an absolute disaster.
And that is precisely why dosage forms are so incredibly important. They are these brilliantly engineered solutions. We add these other ingredients, the excipients, to bulk it up and create something that's actually safe and easy to handle. So, problem solved. We get dose accuracy, we protect the drug from breaking down, and we can even control how and when it's released in the body. Okay, so now let's pop open the formulator's toolbox and look at the core scientific principles. This is the how. This is how we're able to create all those different dosage forms.
So solubility. This is like the first hurdle a drug has to clear. For a drug to do anything systemically, it has to, and I mean has to, dissolve in water to some degree. If it can't dissolve in the body's fluids, it's not going anywhere. It's basically a non-starter.
And then there's this, the partition coefficient. This really shows the tricky balancing act a drug has to perform. It needs to be water-loving enough, hydrophilic, to dissolve. But at the same time, it has to be fat-loving enough, lipophilic, to get through the cell membranes, which are made of lipids. Log P is what tells us how well a drug walks that tightrope.
All right, PBC focus here. You have got to know these two pathways. They're the top two reasons drugs become unstable. First up is hydrolysis. That's just a drug reacting with water. We can fight that by controlling the pH, or maybe by supplying it as a powder you mix later. Then you've got oxidation. Think of it like rusting. We stop that using antioxidants, which are like bodyguards that sacrifice themselves to protect the drug. Now let's take all those principles and apply them to the dosage forms you'll see a million times a day. The solids. We're talking tablets, capsules, and powders. Think of excipients as the supporting cast in a movie. The main drug is the star, but it can't do its job without these guys. Diluents give it bulk, binders hold it together like glue, and disintegrants help it break apart when it's supposed to. So for example, a formulator might pick lactose as a filler because it's cheap and compresses well, but they might switch to microcrystalline cellulose if they need a filler that also moonlights as a disintegrant to help it break up faster. Ah, the classic showdown, tablets versus capsules. The biggest advantage of tablets is their versatility. You can score them, you can coat them for delayed release, you can do all sorts of things. Capsules are often about speed. The gelatin shell dissolves and poof, the drug is released. And of course you have soft gels, which are just this really clever way to put a liquid or suspension inside an easy-to-swallow shell. Now, we don't dispense pure powders that often anymore, but you have to remember that they're the building blocks for almost everything else. And granules? Just think of them as powders that have been clumped together. This is a huge deal in manufacturing because it helps them flow smoothly and not jam up the machines. And effervescent granules? That's just some cool chemistry at work, making a fizzy reaction to help the medicine go down easier. Okay, let's shift gears away from solids and dive into the world of liquids and semisolids. This is where things get really interesting and diverse.
This is a really important distinction, so let's make it simple. Suspensions are solids floating in a liquid. Emulsions are a liquid mixed in another liquid, like oil and water. They both have their own unique problems too. With suspensions, the big worry is caking, where all the solid bits settle into a hard-to-remix brick at the bottom. For emulsions, the problem is creaming or coalescence, which is when the oil and water layers start to separate.
Okay, a quick rundown of semisolids. Ointments are those thick, greasy bases. They're great at locking in moisture. Creams are actually emulsions, so they feel lighter and less greasy, which patients usually prefer. Pastes are packed with solid powder, making them super thick and protective, like a barrier cream. And gels, well, gels are basically liquids that have been turned into jelly. They're usually clear, not greasy, and great for applying to hairy areas of the body.
All right, let's move on to the really specialized stuff. These are the dosage forms that require sterile manufacturing and some pretty unique ways of getting them into the body.
This table really nails the trade-offs with injectables. IV is the undisputed champ for speed because you're going right into the bloodstream. But that also means it's gone the fastest. Intramuscular and subcutaneous injections create a little drug depot under the skin or in the muscle, so the drug gets absorbed slowly over time. That means a slower onset, but a much longer duration. For your exam, you really need to understand that relationship between route, onset, and duration.
These other systems are all about smart problem solving. Transdermal patches, they give you a slow, steady dose, and, this is huge, they bypass the liver's first-pass metabolism, which is a game changer for some drugs. Inhalers are built for speed, delivering medication directly to the lungs for, say, an asthma attack. And suppositories are a critical option when a patient can't take anything by mouth or when you need a very localized effect.
So, let's bring it all home. We've talked about all this deep science. How does it connect back to what we do every single day as pharmacists?
This quote says it all, doesn't it? Our understanding of solubility, excipients, and delivery systems isn't just academic trivia for an exam. It's the knowledge we draw on every day to provide real, responsible care that actually improves our patients' lives.
So really, the big thing to take away from all this is that mastering these fundamentals, it isn't the end of your learning, it's the beginning. This knowledge is the reason you know why that patient on an NSAID needs the enteric-coated tablet, or why you have to counsel a patient to shake a suspension well. And as medicine gets more complex with things like monoclonal antibodies and liposomes, our expertise in how drugs actually get to where they're going in the body, well, it's going to become more vital than ever. That's how we're going to truly personalize medicine for every patient we see.